Understand that most places in the continental United States, law enforcement response is about 3 minutes, in some cases 3 to 5 minutes. For over 2 decades, law enforcement has been training to respond to incidents like this and move directly to threat with 3 operational goals: to stop the killing that's happening, to stop the dying with point of wounding medical care, and to rapidly evacuate the casualties when it is prudent to do so. In those 3 to 5 minutes, what you do matters. You have that amount of time, which can be a very long time in a critical incident, to make good decisions. We're going to teach you to do that. I'd like to talk a little bit about our deliberative process, and that's where avoid, deny, defend comes in. In that shortened decision cycle, after we've eliminated denial and we're using our cognitive brain to think, we have to make a decision on the circumstances that are in front of us. Do we have the ability to avoid and run away? Then we absolutely do so. Do we have the ability to deny access to our location by barricading a door, locking a door, turning out the lights? That's the next step if avoiding is unavailable to us. And finally, as a last resort, we have a legal and moral obligation to defend our lives with force if necessary. I want to take a moment and address a strategy that we've heard about people using in incidents previously, and that is playing dead, acting like you're hit, just laying on the ground and taking a passive posture to avoid being injured. It's not an effective strategy, and I'll give you a great example of why that is. I'm going to introduce you to a woman named Christina Anderson. Christina is a lovely person who goes around the country speaking about being wounded and surviving the Virginia Tech attack when she was a student at that university. We'll watch a video about her experiences with that, but understand that playing dead and being passive can only stand to get you to sustain more or fatal injuries.
We heard the first shots at around 9:40 a.m. I was sitting on the wall of the classroom, so in the hallway, and I could hear the shots getting closer and closer very quickly. I mean, there was only a few seconds between the first time we heard them and when he actually walked in. To me, it sounded like an axe being taken to a piece of wood. And our teacher, she opened the door and she peered outside and she immediately shut the door and she said, "Call 911." And right then, he walked in just seconds after. There's absolutely no time to think or to duck or to take cover, and people just kind of fell to the floor. And he immediately walked in shooting, and he went to the other side of the classroom and he started going down the rows. He went down each row very quickly, very purposefully. And I remember thinking, your turn is coming. You're going to get shot. I mean, I didn't realize there was an active shooter, but I knew something bad was happening. He came back to our classroom 3 times, and on the 3rd time, he killed himself in the front of the class. In between each time he was there, you could just hear people crying and coughing, and the cell phone started ringing. When he was in our class, I remember trying not to breathe very much, so he couldn't tell I was alive. Because as my stomach was hitting the chair, I was thinking, he can see me breathing, he can see me alive, and that was very scary. I'll never forget when the SWAT team first broke in at around 9:51. The officer in the front of the classroom said, "We have a lot of blacks in here." And at the time, I couldn't comprehend what he was talking about, but he meant triage codes. And I remember looking into the girl to my right and realizing, what black meant. He looked over me and first he said yellow, and then he changed it immediately and he said red. And that's when I first started panicking. I still couldn't speak. I was shot 3 times, lying on my back, and I remember thinking, what do you see? Like, what can you see on me that I can't, that you would change me from yellow to red? He killed 12 people in my classroom, including our teacher.
Now, Christina and several of her classmates and her teacher learned this lesson the hard way. That shooter would enter their room 3 times and do a maximum amount of damage in a room where everyone would be injured or killed. Now, fortunately for us, Christina was able to survive that crisis and leave with a message and lessons for us. But the lesson should be to execute the avoid, deny, defend protocol and do not wait for someone else to determine your fate. Likewise, hiding and hoping is not a strategy. We know from the Columbine massacre in 1999 that everyone that lost their life would lose their life cowering under tables that were unable to stop bullets. Hiding and hoping that the attacker does not come to you is not an effective strategy. Defending and denying access to your space absolutely is. Just understand that cowering in a passive position is not a strategy for survival. Lastly, when we're barricading a room, denying access to our location, we want to take it a step further and talk about positioning ourselves inside the room. Now, it may seem a little counterintuitive, but what we really want to do is position ourselves as close to that entry point as possible next to our barricade without being seen. Certainly, we don't want to be seen from the doorway. We want to block any kind of ability to observe into that room in the form of covering the window, if any, making sure the lights are out. But being close to that person who's entering the room with a firearm is critically important, giving us the chance to fight for our lives. If you're all the way across the room from somebody with a firearm, the opportunity to defend yourself is diminished greatly. But if you're close in, within the effective range of weapons of opportunity, impact weapons, even your own hands and feet, you'll have the chance to fight instead of cowering across the room waiting to be shot by someone else. When you do have the opportunity to fight, strike for soft, vulnerable areas of the body, like the face, the neck, even the groin area. Fight hard and fight for your life, because that's what you're doing. Do not stop until the attacker is subdued. When we're defending our lives, mindset is a critical foundation to your survival. When it is time to fight for your life, you must do so with aggressiveness. Do not stop until the attacker is subdued. We're going to watch a video, and I'm going to walk you through it. It's the same grocery store that we saw people running away. The threat is moving toward the gentleman depicted in this video, and you're going to see him make a decision that he may have to fight for his life in order to leave the area. So what he does is he grabs a bottle off the shelf, grips it in his hand so as to use as a weapon, and moves to the exit. This man has mindset. He will survive. He's taking action. At the back of the store, you'll see somebody who is uninjured lay on the ground and pretend to be dead. That person has surrendered their survival to the will of our bad guy. This is not an effective survival strategy.